The following is a presentation of the Controltrends podcasting network.
Hi, this is Eric Stromquist. Welcome to ControlTalk, now your smart buildings video cast and podcast for the week ending September 1st, 2019. That's right, folks. It's Labor Day weekend. Don't watch this over Labor Day. Go spend time with your wife, family, drink some beer, watch some football. Watch this next week when you're supposed to be working. But this is episode 328, where we talk about all things smart building controls, HVAC controls. We talk to the coolest, smartest people in the industry. I got an update for you folks. Ken Smyers is no longer the man, the myth, the legend, with all his clandestine activities, traveling all around the world, doing secret clandestine stuff. His new handle is Secret Agent Man. And if you grew up in the 70s and 80s and 60s like I did, you know that song, Secret Agent Man. So you see Kenny Smyers there, Secret Agent Man. We're also joined this week by the one, the only Marc Petock, the master of ceremonies for the Controltrends Awards, one of the smartest guys in the industry. And boys, I'm so glad to have you guys on the show because we got a big show this week. Welcome, boys. What do you have to say for yourselves?
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Control Trend community. Delighted to be here. I don't know about how you guys are feeling, but I cannot believe it's September 1. However, with September 1 comes football, professional football, college football, high school football. It doesn't matter. So this year, let's see what's going to happen with the Steelers, the New York Giants, and of course, the Atlanta Falcons. So I think we need to give people an update during the course of the year on how our pool is going between the three of us.
Well, I know for a fact that all of our listeners in New England are hoping that the Falcons make it back to the Super Bowl again because they think that that'd be a pretty easy victory. They can get down 4 touchdowns and still come back. So, John Donahue, go pound sand, buddy. We're not rolling. All right, Kenny Smyers.
Well, let me chime in here. First of all, the Secret Agent Man. Yeah, that was one of my favorite songs. But I appreciate the reference there. But yeah, we did some traveling, and it was a remarkable thing. And one thing I did when I did travel to the various places in Europe and wherever was look at the buildings and look at what's inside of them. Look at the service trucks, and it was remarkable to me each time, every occasion, whether Rome, Amsterdam, wherever we were, how it's done the same way. You still got this technician. He's got the pressure to get there, fix things, and make the people inside that building happy. Because most of the places we were at, it was hot, and people needed air conditioning. And it was remarkable. It could have been in Pittsburgh, the same thing that we had seen and we were watching in different places around the world. So it reminded me of how we always say that the buildings and different things are common courtesies, currencies, and in data becoming this ultra important resource, the next oil and whatever. So I think I got a sense of walking inside of buildings, looking at the sensors, seeing the lighting, and evaluating the construct of the building, the infrastructure, and comparing it to what we have here in the States. So it was kind of cool.
So Kenny, with your travels like that and what you just said, do you get a sense that Europe and the countries that you're in are further ahead than buildings here in the United States, equal, or what's your kind of feeling?
Well, the technology is everywhere, so it's ubiquitous. But they're mature energy people. They're hawks on energy. They've had a requirement to meet standards, and in many cases, the government didn't impose the standards. There was no decision to use this or not, or maybe or they didn't have the opportunity to pass costs on to the tenants. They do that, but you see a much more mature approach towards energy and everything from lighting, shading, fan use. It's all modulated for the spot time you need it. They don't heat rooms; they heat zones. Some of the cool things they did was they built the HVAC solution around a particular place where somebody sat versus an entire room. So you see, and I think I think the engineering is probably almost globally the standard is kind of there, but it's the adoption rate there. It's 90%. Here it's 20%.
Let me hop in, Kenny. I think there was a statement once, you probably said this at one time because Ken Smyers is one of the great quote meisters of all time, but great innovation comes from necessity. And I think because your point about the energy reduction being a necessity, I think it reflected in the engineering. I mean, it's not optional. So therefore they got better at it. They drove the cost out of it. And that being said, I was super impressed with the architecture we saw in Amsterdam, for instance, when we were over at the EasyIO Global Conference. Mark, I think sort of getting back to your question, I think in certain areas, yeah, maybe they're ahead. In certain areas, I think maybe we're ahead. What's your take? I mean, you travel around the world. You're a globetrotter.
Well, I think, what you guys have said, especially energy being the true driver, got our friends in Europe going a little bit faster. But I think in North America, what I'm seeing the big drivers are, energy is part of it, but it's more about the operational performance now. And that's where I think is the main driver now for our buildings, because, the dynamics of our technology and basically occupant behavioral changes, are changing almost every day, so to speak. And so I think that's where the U.S. is really starting to embrace the technology faster than we ever have before.
Right. I think to add to that too, Mark, and I think Ken Sinclair has been talking about this for a while, but I think that, the real estate business is competitive. I think tenant comfort and tenant experience are two buzzwords Kenny and I are hearing a lot of. And, from the Lynxsprimng perspective, are customers starting to talk more about that?
Yeah, they are. And again, just in general, the conversation has changed from what we used to talk about, 5, 6, 7 years ago, where it was about integration, it was about HVAC and all that kind of stuff. But now this conversation has changed because it's moved further up and further out. So now you get the C-suites talking about it. You get other folks within the service arena talking about it. And so as an example, we used to talk about improved efficiency. Now it's all about operational performance, as I mentioned. It used to be about return on investment. Now it's business outcomes, outcome-based performance and effectiveness. And we talked about occupant. The occupant at one time, the occupancy was just worried about hot and cold. Today, it's about complete occupant satisfaction, comfort, and productivity. So, our whole conversation has changed. And I think that's, moving the industry faster and harder than we ever have before.
Oh, well said. And to your point, we're using terms and things we never used before. I think one of the coolest IT versus OT was a remarkable revelation to me. Operational technology, what that meant, the insertion of the cybersecurity concerns. But probably to me, one of the coolest things that we do now is we have heard here, where data is the gold. It's the oil, and we are now creating systems that produce data and capture data. It's always been there, but we could never harvest it. So now the big thing is, how do we get the information, make it exposed to go into some app somewhere that produces a business advantage, or it reveals to a business case to somebody had nothing to do with facility management. Now wants to know how many people come in exit one, or in entrance one, and how many people leave here. Where's the biggest parking loads there, and so they can make decisions based on all this data that's there that was never exposed to them. So we're now in a data business world too. In addition to HVAC, in addition to comfort and tenant satisfaction and productivity, we are also now connecting ourselves to the IT world that wants data.
Absolutely. And I also think, that data, we keep talking about it. We've moved from referencing it as big data to really smart, specific data. And I think that's where the value now truly is just getting that data that you actually need, or what the different constituents are looking for, what they need, and things like that, versus just here's a pool of data, just jump in and, hopefully you'll swim to the top and you'll be fine, versus hopefully you won't drown. So I think that's been it. So.
Well, no, it is. And that's reconfigured how we structure things, right? We've gone from enterprise to edge, and you guys, Lynxsprimng is, a leader with the whole concept of edge controllers. Speak, if you will, about enterprise versus edge vis-a-vis data. And then also we're going to ask you about a new controller you guys came out with after you sort of explain this to us.
Mm-hmm. Well, back in, I think back in 2015, we were looking at the market and where we thought the market was going to go. And we saw the cost of processing starting to really come down. We saw the importance of data, which we've been talking about, and we talked about things being moved further out on the edge, as we say. So we came up with the concept of edge to enterprise, and then part of that is creating a line of solutions based on being able to go out to the edge. And in this particular case, we've adopted, like we have for years, the Niagara framework, and we've taken the Niagara framework and ported it on to IP edge controllers. And our newest one, we've had the 534 out for now about a little over 2 years, and we've just recently launched back a couple months ago a sister one called the Genesis Edge 514, which is a fully programmable IP controller for connectivity, integration, interoperability, and control at the edge, powered by Niagara, same Niagara tool sets and workbench everybody's interested in, and it has 14 IO built in. So with that, part of this concept is being able to process the data and do data analytics at the device level, so that if you choose to send the information up to the cloud, you can. But to get that data done faster, you don't have to worry about transmitting it up to the network, worry about cyber issues, things like that. You decrease that. It's all being done at the edge, because ultimately our saying is this: we believe that the data is more valuable than the device itself today.
Interesting.
So,
well, I think you hit two, again, trends and dynamic changes within our industry that are really and truly shaping the future. And one is the IP controller itself. I mean, once upon a time, who would have thought MSTP would just, be abandoned for this faster IP, the Ethernet and the incredible speeds that it's capable with, and the bandwidth, and the concept of putting, these controllers, changing the architecture, the layout. So, if you go from, unitary controllers, field level controllers, you could take this Edge 514 and basically have it do whatever it wants. It's no longer confined to HVAC. You could do it to monitor whatever you want it to. I mean, so now it just becomes a point on the network, but you can get it to where it belongs quickly. Or like you said, you could you could do your programming so that it can respond immediately to the pressing thing. So, has this ever been put to an industrial use? Is it fast enough to handle the big boy PLC things?
We are looking at that. I want to say not yet.
Okay.
But there is some use cases that are under testing right now. So eventually, hopefully, yes. But again, one of it is for us, it's fully programmable. And part of our strategy is that if a contractor or an integrator wanted to put their own program in there, have at it. You can, to your point, whether it be a plant equipment or a rooftop unit or virtually anything. But one of the really interesting things is it's got powerful processing, and it is the Niagara framework. So there is no more, you don't have to learn another program.
You don't need any more tools. They're right there.
You've got it. Yeah. So it really helps to maximize that investment that many people have already done with the Niagara framework. You don't have to get retrained. It's use the same wire sheets, so forth and so on. So
yeah, it's very cool. And I think a misconception some people might have, I know I did, was the fact that sending data up to the enterprise is like a data-free lunch. I mean, there's a cost to that anytime you're transmitting data. And like you say, you can lose connectivity. So it seems like, let me ask a question. Are you sort of seeing an interesting balance? Talk about when somebody might want to send data up to the enterprise and when they might want to just go at the edge.
Well, again, I think it's up to how the building wants to be monitored, maintained, and reacted to, or to incorporate being proactive, I should say. So to me, it's all about doing at the edge. We live in a world where we push a button and we expect immediate connectivity. We expect immediate results and things like that. And again, being able to do that at the edge is great, but then you may not want to, you may only want to take a specific alarm or something that happened on that controller or during that sequence and just send that up to the cloud. The beauty is you don't have to send everything up to the cloud and wait for the cloud to digest it and then send an action back.
Well, not to get too futuristic, but we all know that the 5G is coming, and that they've picked 10 cities. The government has picked 10 cities, and they're putting towers up everywhere. The limits of 5G is just, it just doesn't have the line of sight travel, so they need 700,000 more towers. But imagine, we're seeing like some scenarios where you walk into a building, a beacon picks you up on your smart device, whatever it is, whatever phone you might have. If you volunteer it in, you can be now in part of an ecosystem of a building where if you're shopping, it could lead you to the aisle you need to go to so you don't wander around, or it can communicate sales to you. I mean, so imagine when they increase the speeds of these networks, we're not going to see much go to the cloud except for the analytics side of it, because just like cars, autonomous vehicles now, that's what's holding up the big thing. They say when these towers get put in place, and they're looking at like 2021 or something, we're going to be living in a world where information is going to travel at incredible speeds, and you're going to get the feedback, and you're going to learn from it. You're going to get this, so that you're going to see buildings become more of a haven of some sort. So if you like music, it's going to know what music you like. It's going to know your lighting levels, because it picks up all your behaviors, and it retains them, and then it brings it to you on a platter. Eric and I were in a building not too long ago where you could just look at the ceiling and say, hey, what's the lunch special today? Well, there's hoagies are for $5 or whatever, or whatever.
But Eric, you shouldn't be eating it because you need to lose weight. Yeah, that's
no, but it's just
for you.
I mean, we can it's challenging to conceive of the world that's going to be here in 2 or 3 years. But if we keep going in this pace, because Mark, we've known you now for what we've been doing this thing for 8 years now. Yeah. And what has changed, the evolution that we've experienced firsthand has just been extraordinary, just lightning fast. And we still see the majors kind of moving, and holding up the big structure, and that's not going to change. And we have different rates of adoption across all these different markets. Mm-hmm. But Lynxspring is taking advantage of getting something quick to market, making sure it satisfies solutions, and then going deep more. So the second point I was going to make about having the IP controller is the modularity concept, that you don't have to buy a mothership first just so you can see one sensor on a PC. You could put this thing into play, and for a couple $100, you could be controlling a plant.
And to your point, again, we have coming out in the next month and a half a version where we have Monet sensors that can be that are connected right to these Niagara-based IP edge controllers. And to your point, Kenny, you can go temporarily put these sensors wherever you want, connect into them, get the information, and then build a program or what you're going to do benchmark based on actual real live data versus.
That's incredible. Yeah, it's a living survey.
Exactly. So
I tell you, it's just incredible stuff we're living in, and we're going to talk some more. But our guest is teed up, because I think at the end of the day, the one commonality that we all have, you can have the greatest technology in the world, but if somebody can't put it in and set it up, then it's all for naught. Mark, how about introducing our guest? He's somebody you know.
Great, Eric. Thanks. Appreciate it. I am delighted to introduce to the Controltrends community Phil Rogers. Phil is CEO of Albireo Energy. And, Phil has 35 years of experience in lots of different facets, including facilities management, engineering, energy, construction, and real estate. Prior to Albireo, he was also CEO of Jensen Hughes, which is the largest global fire and safety consulting engineering company. He's also was executive vice president at Sodexo, and also CEO of Link Facility Services. So Phil brings a whole new perspective to a conversation. So Phil, welcome to the show.
Welcome, Phil.
Welcome, Phil.
Hey, man, we are so glad to have you on the show, Phil. First of all, for our community out there who might not know about Albireo, tell them a little about the company and what you guys do and what makes you guys special and what makes Mark smile every time he mentions your name.
Well, we've been around for a while. Our roots go back 45 years. We've got 17 offices in the United States. The company services about a fourth of the Fortune 100 Fortune 100 clients and corporations in the United States. We're technology agnostic. We specialize with expertise in building automation, electrical power monitoring. We have a focus on the MSI world, which I think we'll talk about later today, and a large presence in the energy services, including energy procurement. We operate throughout the United States in 44 states, and we also operate outside of the United States in 24 countries, about 650 employees.
Very impressive.
Very impressive.
Phil, I just really quick want to just bring attention to what Albireo Energy means and how you got the name. That concept is really cool and clever. Tell us about what the Albireo constellation or the star means.
I'm glad you picked that up. It's in the constellation there are two stars. One's blue, one's gold, and they're called the Albireo stars. They're referred to as the partner stars. And we picked that name because in our world, partnering with our customers, partnering with our employees, partnering with our vendors, subcontractors is the key for a success. And we treat our relationships like partners. And it just is the right way to do business today.
Good stuff.
Very cool. Well, Phil, you've obviously been around for quite some time, and you said a phrase when you introduced yourself about you guys being brand agnostic, and which I think is absolutely key. It's a big change I've seen in the industry. But for our listeners out there who might not know, talk about brand agnostic versus open and what open really means. I think there's a lot of misconceptions. So from your perspective, when you educate your customers, how do you educate them on what open means?
So there's 75 billion devices in the United States. This whole world, the IP-enabled systems, it's been immersed. It's the genesis of the focus on MSI, the model around that. So to integrate and aggregate all these systems and data, you've got to be able to play and understand on a diverse world. And in focusing on one type of technology or one type of brand, does not allow you to have what is truly an open systems. The other thing about open systems today, it does allow for simple insertion or removal from the architecture of the buildings. And that is a thing of beauty if you think about the life cycle of a facility today. You'll want that flexibility over the years to have insertion and removal of different things.
Just for my benefit, could you tell me or define what insertion removal means to the industry?
We are, what we refer to is if you're connecting disparate systems together and you want to go through upgrades, replacements, new technologies, you want to be able to do this on an easy insertion plug and play. Just think about connectability between energy systems, building controls, lighting systems, security systems. Mm-hmm. Say tomorrow you want to go to a different security module or different lighting type of architecture. That's what we mean by that.
So, now that we've talked a little bit about open systems, what do you see are the drivers in today's marketplace for deploying and the operating systems in the different building scenarios?
Well, one of the biggest drivers is the visibility into KPIs, key performance indicators, at the enterprise level. Another one is just to be able to determine root cause analysis of any potential issues before it happens. Those are the two large drivers we see. The third one, of course, which has been around, is the whole area about operational efficiency, which also leads to energy efficiencies. If you step back and look at, and United States, these buildings consume 1.2 billion kilowatt hours a year, over 120 billion of electricity cost. So if you think about the 6 million commercial buildings in the United States, 295 billion square feet, there is a lot of focus on KPIs, root cause analysis, operation efficiency, and energy efficiency.
So to kind of take this a little bit further is how have you seen, our industry is very dynamic, and how have you seen it change over especially the last 2 or 3 years, where I think we've been running at, like I like to refer to as at NASCAR paces or speeds. What are you seeing? You've been in the industry for such a long time. You've got to be seeing some things that we didn't see 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Well, Mark, great question. I definitely see over the last several years the owners and developers requiring more technology amenities in their facilities. It's to provide a productive environment for the operating staff. It's to provide frictionless experiences for the tenant, guests, and employees. This user experience and managing user experience is major. And then also the visibility for the executive staff to measure the performance of the facilities. That's what I've seen over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of being a major change. The buildings have to be more competitive against their peers. Technology amenities is a big differentiator. This personal power control, the digital empowerment. If the lessee does not have that, they'll move on to a facility that will.
Very good. Hey,
I was going to say, just to take it, expand on that, have you seen where the decisions for building technology has moved up the food chain truly into the C space, or do you still see this, it kind of hunkering down in the facility management side of the house?
Well, it starts oftentimes with the facility side or the information technology side of the house. But if you're talking about the investments that are being made now to do smart buildings, the C-suite is definitely weighing in. It's a process on funding. It's a process on thinking through the C-suite on how they want to relate and make a statement from their brand over the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I do see much more involvement with the C-suite relative to smart building, being a smart building today.
Mm-hmm. So Phil, obviously, you've been in the business a long time. The C-suite's involved. The demands that you've mentioned that people are looking for have changed. What sort of skills or how have you had to evolve as a systems integrator to meet these needs?
Well, you just go back, systems integrators, service providers were once just able to provide a single system implementation. They were not aware of data producing systems. That just wasn't in our view. Today, we and others that are playing in systems integration, we have to be aware of all the systems and all the data on the enterprise. We have to make sure the data is actionable, it's intuitive, it's collaborative. That's what they're looking for today. They're looking for us to provide the leadership in that area. And this whole area about having in-house expertise and experience around IT and OT is definitely a new change in how we communicate and share the data. We've seen that as a major trend. I would say if you did a gap analysis of where the industry was versus where it needs to be or should be, those are the major things that we see where the gap analysis is. And this whole in-house expertise and experience around IT and OT has definitely changed system integration.
Well, it's very impressive. It's a great conversation. The things that you're doing that Albireo does differently or whatever, can you give us an example of one of your favorite projects or buildings where you really took the bull by the horns and delivered this new building and met these expectations?
I'll give you a relevant example, one that we're just finishing up, although it's a journey, and we're probably on the first hole of a long journey for years to come. It was up in Hudson Yards, New York City. You may be familiar with the Warner Media.
Oh, yeah.
102-story building. It's the largest massive building in the United States to become a smart building. Just opened up this year. This year we had 16 disparate systems that we had to integrate and put together over the entire footprint of the building.
Wow.
All onto a single pane of glass. It really provided for Warner Media what they want to do with their employees, and what they want to communicate to the world is that they want to be at the leading edge of being a smart building, and having a building obsolete after the first week or first year or first 10 years. They were thinking decades ahead of themselves in terms of making the investment, becoming truly a fully integrated master systems integration smart building.
Excellent.
Very cool. Well, it seems like we're seeing more of, I guess maybe because the C-suite's involved, more thinking long-term instead of, low price up front. Based on your experience, what are 2 or 3 of the major mistakes you see people make when implementing their systems? I mean, penny wise, pound foolish type things, or whatever, what you're seeing.
Well, good question. I would think the first major mistake today, because of all the data-enabled devices, is not getting the coordination closer up front with OT and IT. And big mistake if you don't do it earlier on in the design. Traditionally, that has come together later in the process, in the implementation. But today, on day one, you've really got to put that together. Another major mistake we've seen, and I think Mark has ran into this from time to time, is that the outcomes are not well expressed. They call them use cases, what they desire in terms of the outcomes. They're not well thought through. And so the mistake would be is to go in with the idea of we want to solve this issue, but not going through the entire gamut of all the things that you're trying to solve later. It becomes very much more expensive down the road to fix all that. So those are two that come to mind as well.
Excellent.
Do you, I want to circle in on, go to a different subject here. We started talking about a little bit about the master system integrator, the role of a master system integrator and things like that. You touched a little bit on it, but I'd like to kind of dive in a little bit deeper, if we don't mind. So from Albireo's perspective, what do you see are the necessary elements that really make up a good master system integrator? This
is probably the best question. It was a question we studied, Mark, for 1 year. So for a year, we internally and externally did a full gap analysis on ourselves, and also analysis of where the industry is and should be for master systems integration. It was a process that we told the board that we wanted to do because if you're going to make an investment around this area, and a sizable investment in terms of people, time, and money, you've really got to get the as-is basis. So we came up with 20 elements that made up master systems integration, and we had to weight those 20 elements. It's from a time and money standpoint, it's not something that you can accomplish all. And then once we weighted all the 20, we came down to a core 10 elements, of which we had to make a decision: do we invest internally or externally or partner, et cetera, make buy decisions. Mm-hmm. We also looked at the marketplace from a competitive standpoint and how you monetize this whole initiative around master systems integration. It's one thing to have a good idea. I think I've heard a couple of you on this call talk about early adopters. Sometimes you can be at the bleeding or leading edge and not have any proof in the pudding, or wasting resources and finding out that maybe you could have spent your time and money in another area. We wanted to make sure that we were at the right time, the right place with the investments we were prepared to make. That took a year. And I would highly recommend people who are going down this path, no matter what size of company you are, is to take time to do your own gap analysis, your own analysis of the marketplace to decide how you want to win and where you want to win. Because there's a lot of places you can choose on. Which geographies, what type of end markets do you want to play in the corporate high-rise skyline world? Do you want to play in the biotech pharma world? Do you want to go after the healthcare industry, higher ed industry, the retail industry? All those are ripe for solutions. But if you want to be strategic about this, you've got to come back with a strategy. And we ended up with a strategic roadmap. Fast forward today, we've funded the right positions to bring in-house. We brought the organization together. But I know where the amount of work we had to do, and I know we're just one of many, many service providers and systems integrators out there. And I suspect that there are others that are along this curve of getting to a point of responding to the industry in a leadership role. It's not the case. You're definitely going to learn on the job. There's no question about that, with each of these. And I remember this is more somewhere between a cottage industry and a real industry today. And a few more years from today, it's going to be a real mature industry. We would like to be thinking of one of those leaders and looking back to help others, survive and thrive in this environment. Being responsible to deliver a purpose-built solution is a lot of responsibility. And it's just not a P&L issue. A lot of people are trusting you in terms of coming up with functionality on day one. Yes, they wanted to reduce some first costs and some operating costs, but delivering a project on time, on budget is a very, it's difficult just as a systems integrator, but it just compounds more with master systems integration. You have to be responsible for the whole life cycle expansion, the evolution of all the low voltage systems, and it's an awesome responsibility.
Well, Phil, I had a question that pops up because it seems like you've got clearly a leadership role, what Albireo is doing, and how it's an excellent presentation. We're seeing that there's a governance issue. Once you get things in place, once you start that massive project and you really get underway and everything's starting, all engines are firing, how do you sustain it? I mean, it seems like we're already starting to see fatigue in the resolution to maintain it and keep things, whether it's cybersecurity or your operational. Tell us about your process in that capacity.
Yeah, our company was founded on several principles. One of them was service. And so as much as we love solution projects and handling those types of opportunities for our customers, we probably have 650 solution projects every month going on. Our core business is service. And when we're talking to a client, Ken, about MSI, it's somewhere in the process, we're talking about how they're going to handle their technology coordination post day one implementation. And that may result in a contract with us or a structure internally within the customer to end up providing some sort of a technology coordination point. Short of that, you're absolutely right. The disparate systems will become disparate again, and the changes will be old after day one if you don't have some sort of systems technology service or relationship with the customer. It's a great question. Probably one that hasn't been thought through as much because the industry is still maturing. And I remember this to other initiatives in my career where people wanted to outsource. One example would outsource facilities management. Again, a cottage industry going back 30 years ago. It was It was only those that really recognized what happened after the day one happened, and then 3 years from there, 5 years and 10 years, and also managing the client's expectations on the evolution of the outcomes that they want.
Great answer. Yep, super.
So, as we're coming up on time frame and things like that, so I'd like to, what kind of advice, practical advice, could you leave the Controltrends audience with? Everybody's always looking for advice and suggestions and recommendations. So again, you've been a stalwart in the industry. What kind of advice can you give us?
Hey, Mark, let me frame that up a little bit too, Phil. Our audience includes end users, consulting engineers, other integrators, and distributors. So I don't, it might be a little bit different depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah, we touched on one thing, the whole OT and IT technology design elements have to be dealt with early in the projects as opposed to the traditional model of late in the design engineering with OT and IT. If your focus is in MSI as an MSI integrator, you absolutely need to get early in the design phase of the project. It would be good to start looking at in-house expertise for the project. I was told by one of a colleague that you would know in the industry, one of the big names in the industry, Phil, you think your best project managers, you think your best systems and solutions engineers, you think your best salespeople would be really good at this whole area of MSI. We found that not to be the truth. We had to go out and redevelop the expertise. They're very good at talking about building controls, but that was just a slither of what MSI is about. So if you don't have those types of people, get them trained up or hire some people that have that expertise. We had to go out and augment our own current staff. We're hoping over time we'll be able to train people that are really good project managers and controls to become better at skilled at MSI type work. So that would be advice I would have.
Phil, if you can ever get that done, put that in a bottle and sell it, because we'd like to buy some of that.
I know. Thank you. That's a good point. And, you don't want to make too many mistakes before you learn those lessons along the way.
Sorry to interrupt you there.
Yeah, Phil, you have a sizable company. What areas do you guys cover?
In terms of services or geographies?
In terms of geographies, yeah. I noticed, for example, well, go ahead.
Well, we've done projects in 44 of the United States. We're located in. We have 17 offices. We're expanding every other month. You'll continue to see us expansion. We just expanded down to the Southeast in June.
Alabama. That's what I was going to say, buddy. Welcome to the South, man.
Thank you very much. And we love it.
I'm going to give you some vocab lessons when you go down there. Basically 2 words you need to know. One of them I can say on air and the other one I can't, but you need to say y'all.
Y'all.
That's not bad. You're very good there. All right, cool. We eat funny food down here too, but we'll educate you on that as well. So
yeah, we love the Southeast. And so we've got our eyes targeted in some other geographies and over the balance of this year and then next year. So we're growing both with partnering, merging with other partners, other firms as part of the Albireo Energy family. But we're also organically growing. So we've got a full plate. We're excited about the future. This is a great industry to be in. We hope we can play a small part in the success going back in 10 years from today about this, where the technology is being changing. We like the fact that we're agnostic as a player in the industry. So the idea of listening and learnings and not relying on one sort of OEM or et cetera is not something we have to rely on in the years to come. So it's a good thing.
Very, very cool. Well, walk our listeners out there if they want to, engage you guys with services. Walk them through, best website to get hold of you, and sort of walk them through the process of working with you guys.
The best contact would be our website, albireoenergy.com. It does get updated weekly, but there's a contact element. Our senior officers are listed there. Phone numbers or contact information is all there. So that would be a good one to start with. I think they all know the three of you. So if there's a reference or referral, that we'd take all those. I'd appreciate that. This has been an exciting thing. Much success going forward. Controltrends, smart buildings is a neat thing. Much success going forward.
Thanks very much. Well, listen, are you going to be in Orlando this year for AHR?
Yep.
Fantastic. Well, listen, for our community out there, we've got a Master Systems Integrator of the Year every year. It's a voting competition. Let's get Phil nominated, get him on the ballot. And Phil, come be our guest at the Controltrends, which Mark, I think, has an extra ticket. We'd love to have you there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great.
Super. Very good. Thank you, guys.
All right, man. It's been fun.
Wonderful. Thanks.
Man. Phil Rogers from Albireo Energy. Thank you so much. And don't be a stranger. Come back and see us again sometime.
Will do.
All right, man. Hey, guys, I don't know about you, man. Great stuff from Phil. Mark, you've known him for a while. And, man, anybody that's got a Picasso is okay with me.
Well, I remember Phil from Realcomm Ibigon. He was on center stage. He's truly, an industry wizard and recognized for the experience and what he brings to the table. So that's very, very impressive. I mean, we should get an hour's worth of that every week so we can stay on top of everything. It's like a executive briefing.
Okay, guys. Well, listen, good stuff there. I want to cycle back because the Controltrends Awards are in full swing. Kenny, we got some people to thank. The platinum sponsors, I think we got one platinum sponsor left. Marcus, Lynxspring's on us again as a platinum, so thank you for that, and thank you for all you do. Kenny, JCI came on this week. Who else came on this week?
Oh, Belimo came on. Honeywell came on. So we have Kelly, Honeywell, Distech, JCI, Belimo, EasyIO, KMC, Contemporary Controls, Jackson Control, and we're gonna have
KMC's a platinum plus as well as EasyIO.
That's right.
So they're having a big shindig before the Controltrends Awards. So, to our community out there, the way this works is the sponsors have the tickets. So, and they would love to entertain you, especially if you're a potential customer. Just say, I want to go to the awards. I want to see Mark, Ken, and Eric, and all the cheerleaders they're going to have. Hopefully, female cheerleaders. We're not doing male cheerleaders. I'm sorry. Guys, no male cheerleaders.
So remind everybody, where is this year's Controltrends Awards, and what's the venue? What are we going to be doing?
Well, I can answer that readily. It's going to be at the BB King's Club on International Boulevard. It's about a half mile, if I remember correctly, from the convention center. So it's very centrally located. So for the people that have logistical issues sometimes in the big cities, this is laid out perfectly. So it's going to take you maybe 20 minutes max to get from wherever you're at in Orlando. Sunday Super Bowl, who knows what's going to go on, because that's part two. We're starting off with the Controltrends Awards in this marvelous facility. It's designed for entertainment. So every seat's got a view of the stage. It's going to be, they've got the staff that's accustomed to largest crowds, and we're going to change the venue or adopt a venue to facilitate Part B, which is going to be the Super Bowl party. The biggest Super Bowl party in Orlando, Super Bowl 54, and you get to experience it right after the Controltrends Awards. So we're going to have like a tailgate style of food and beverages. So you're not going to be like last year's show. We had a beautiful sit-down banquet in a very special place. The ambience there was just cultured. Good old Southern, staged area. I mean, it's one of the prettiest facilities I've ever been in for a large facility to be so well decorated. And they just completed a $2 million renovation. So this is going to be just the opposite. This is going to be.
Yeah, we're going from elegant to Hank Williams Jr.'s Monday Night Football trashy. It's going to be fun. So
it's going to be fun.
So it's going to be the best. We're starting the awards an hour early, so you won't miss any of the Super Bowl stuff. As a matter of fact, it's going to be a Super Bowl theme. So don't think about wearing a suit. Think about wearing your uniform, your team jersey or whatever. Rumor has it that Dandy Don, Howard Cosell, and Frank Gifford might be calling the play-by-play at the event. Cheerleaders have been promised. Kenny and I and Mark are doing an extensive interview process to get just the right ones. This might take, 6 months, Mark. I mean, but it's gonna be great. But no, we're really excited because again, part of the whole point of the Control Trends Awards is acknowledging the superstars in our industry. And I think one of the greatest compliments I get year in and year out is somebody comes along and goes, "Man, my kids saw the video of me getting an award. They finally think I'm cool." And because we think we got the greatest companies, people, and products in the industry. And this is our night to celebrate. And my goodness, do we have a celebration plan this year?
So let me ask you a question about the categories and the nominations and all that kind of good stuff. When can folks expect the nominations, and are there any new categories this year? I know of one that we've talked about, but let's kind of talk about that.
Yeah,
Certainly.
Well, nomination ballots will be coming out later this month. The big new category is going to be the Distributor of the Year. Kenny, his DMS Controls Group and Stromquist and Company have recused ourselves from that because if we were in, we're very competitive. We'd have to make sure we win, and that would probably be the end of me and Kenny. So we won't be participating, but all those other companies out there, so that'll be one you can nominate. But Kenny, anything else you want to add to that?
No, it's in progress right now. In fact, you kind of let the cat out of the bag. We are working on it right now. The troubles and the challenges we have is the globality of Control Trends and how we have products and solutions that come from Australia or Poland or Holland that don't hit New York City and don't hit Miami and don't hit Atlanta and don't hit Houston and don't hit San Diego, but they're still important enough, and the Control Trends has served as a conduit of interest for other people around the world to bring their products and services to the forefront of the North American market. So we see growth in the opportunities for categories and who participates in them. So it's something that we always have to go through at the last minute. We'd like to have more categories, but you can't anything more than 20 some categories becomes a tedious event, right. And we can't do it.
That. Yeah, exactly.
So we really have to go through a refinement process. Eric and I, and you'll be involved probably to get the best combination and best results out of what we have right now. So, and the trends. So what we do, just to give you some background to it, we analyze the trends, the posts. We look at the products and solutions. We look at the people that really are changing the industry. If you remember, and I wanted to say this before I forget, Eric, when you said about the superstars in the Super Bowl. Remember your very first presentation on the Control Trends, and you were down there, and you had the flight going from Atlanta to Dallas, and the introduction you had there, where you said, the Super Bowl, football has its Super Bowl, baseball has its World Series, All-Star games. This is the All-Star game of the HVAC and building automation world, and I think I was pretty precocious at the time because it is that, and then to have that coincide on the Super Bowl, which is the apex of the whole NFL season.
Special.
It was kind of coincidental, but and very fortunate. So we can capitalize on it. But the trends that have surfaced again and again are followed by the solutions and the products. We've seen an introduction of IP controllers that's just been incredible. And how we're seeing the IP world start to supersede the BM, almost like some of the protocols we've seen where one was more popular, but then over time the other one kind of prevailed. We're seeing it now with the networks that the IP controllers are being preferred because of what they deliver, the faster speeds, and you can do more with less, and so that drives the solutions and the products. So and then the people behind them, of course, and support them. So the trends are what drives the Control Trends, and the new inrush of people, solutions, and products are driven in support and in the execution and delivery of these new trended products, if that makes sense.
So we're thinking about having like a Man, the Myth, the Legend award named after Ken Smyers, but I don't know whether that'll fly yet or not. But we got the.
Hey, I got to say thank you again to Marc Petock for the Petock Award. I got that thing sitting here. It's my inspiration. I have a Control Trends trophy behind me and in front of me, and that's my little trophy case, my old military bull, and some of the sports I did.
But again, a special thanks. Our platinum sponsors came on first. We have some limited spaces. We've been sold out the last couple of years. The loyal platinums have all had a chance to get their spots, which they have, and we'll be sending out sponsorship package for the gold, silver, and bronze. The existing customers get first choice, and anything left over we'll make available for new sponsors. But we're going to be sold out again this year. Kenny and I have gone to great lengths to make sure the sound system is right. There's not a bad seat in the house. This is going to be spectacular. All right, guys.
I agree.
That's what I got to say about that. What else you want to talk about? We covered Mark's women yet from the.
We're not going there.
We're not going to talk about you and Cindy.
That's
we're not going to talk about you and Cindy Crawford again.
No.
She keeps texting me asking if you'll call her.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, what else we got, boys? Anything else?
No, that was it. And I don't think.
Good.
Yeah, I thought that hit. It ended pretty good. There were 2 or 3 posts, but I don't even know if we want to go there.
No, we don't have time for it. Listen, we're going to do our outro here because we got to practice that. All right, here we go, man. That's another week on Control Talk Now, your smart buildings video cast and podcast. Hey, if you like it, give us a thumbs up. Tell a friend. Let's get the community growing. Special thanks to our guest this week, Phil Rogers. Be sure to check those guys at albireo.com. Good stuff from them. And, of course, Marc Petock, the MC, Lynxspring's main man, keeps it going. And by the way, listen, there is a alert out. There's been the hurricane alerts, all that kind of stuff. The world has not stopped turning yet. That we were a little bit concerned because Terry Swope, who has the best hair in the industry, if we're going to have an award for best hair, to have to go to Terry Swope. Terry has cut his hair. I think a woman to talk to him, Samson, Delilah, but things are still functioning well at Lynxspring, right, Mark?
They absolutely 100%. They have been functioning the best they ever have.
And I asked Terry to save the hair in the bag and give it to me so I could get a Terry Swope wig. And I don't know whether maybe I'll wear that at the Controltrends Awards. And of course, last but not least, your co-host and mine, secret agent man, Mr. Kenny Smyer. So with that, be bold, stay in control, stay relevant, and have a great week.
Indeed, Eric.
Indeed, guys. We'll see you next week.
Secret
Alrighty.
agent man, secret agent man.
Boom, boom, there's a knock at the door, but don't freeze in your tracks. It's that chance that you've been waiting for. It's the light coming through